This is about the first time I visited San Francisco. I've had an uncle and a cousin, and my grandmother was living with them. And they were east of San Francisco in a town called Lafayette, about 15 or 20 miles east of the city. And this is called Eccentric Tour Guide, San Francisco, 1976. Leaving Lafayette, I rode BART into a new world of California sunlight, screened by pastels of carbon monoxide. On the outskirts of Oakland, palm trees startled my Midwestern eyes. Then in the tunneling dark, the train stopped at 12th Street. A tall octogenarian gentleman got in and sat down across from me. "Looks like you're a tourist," he noted as he watched me read the map of San Francisco my uncle had given me. "Yes," I replied. "I worked for the Census Bureau 30 odd years, and some of those years were a little odd. I keep all my work in here," he continued, picking up a scuffed tobacco-colored briefcase. "Sometimes I misplace it around the city. I like to say I left it in San Francisco instead of my heart," he chuckled. "I may be forgetful, but I'm still punctual," he bragged. "I have 7 alarm clocks in my house." He said, I even keep 2 in my bathrobe." "Well, there's a lot to see here, like Fisherman's Wharf, Chinatown, the Trans-American Building," he rambled on. "I just want to find an ocean beach. I've never seen the Pacific," I interjected. "Then you should take the bus to Golden Gate Park, although I haven't done that in years," he said, his words receding in a shipwrecked voice. We got on at Embarcadero and said goodbye. We got out at Embarcadero and said goodbye. Overhead, the sea had hung foggy linens amid the Goya clouds of a 2-year-old smog. Then I was on the bus climbing the Rice-A-Roni Hills. It terminated at Kezar Stadium, still haunted by cheers from 49er games in the 50s. Walking in the park, I heard murmurs of feedback from Dead concerts in the 60s. I couldn't find a trail to the ocean and turned back to a deeper gray as a deeper gray was rolling in. And this one is an exercise for one of my Hugo House classes back in 2008. This is like, it consists of the beat poets writing postcards to each other. This is called Greetings from the Here and Gone. Dear Neil, I'm here in Dayton, Ohio, looking at a storefront window at a headless mannequin. Alongside it is a photo portrait of Eisenhower. His head, a blur of light, like the instant a flashbulb goes off. It's 2 a.m. I don't have anywhere to sleep. I'm just waiting for the gray flannel dawn sky. Jack. Dear Mother, I'm writing you from the space-time continuum you've escaped. The car broke down near Salinas by a field with 3 crosses. The 7 a.m. sun streams through the clouds like the lights of a flying saucer descending from heaven. Neil. Dear Alan, I had a dream. I was walking through a neighborhood in New Orleans between some worn wooden stairs and a pillar with a dirty cornice. I noticed the partial figure of a dapper suited man. It was Burroughs. He was in the morphine womb, losing himself in its milky internal sun. To whom it may concern, I got a ride with two crazy guys out of New Orleans. Burroughs' backyard bayou shotgun blast still echoing in my ears. Like me, they were going to that Pacific Osage of LA. Neil was driving through Kansas, his blue eyes aimed like bullets at the asphalt lifeline ahead. A dark wandering spirit stared through the slits in Jack's callow clown's mask. Monty Clift, James Dean, Brando, forget them. These guys are the next big thing. Their sign their would-be agent. Addendum, postcard from the hedge. Next time I seen them, they're tossing a baseball across the sedan traffic streets of Ozone Park. Then Neil makes a Willie Mays catch and falls into a hedge by the sidewalk. On second thought, they got the energy, but not the concentration to be professional actors. Their former would-be agent.
Hooray. And I thought I would read a poem that was recently published in the Daily Drunk about a Groundhog Day story that I read in which, oops, there we go. So this year, I guess people could they could send in a picture of themselves and pay for the Groundhog Club or whatever to make a cardboard cutout of them and have it be there in person when the groundhog, sees his shadow or not. So I thought that was pretty weird and poem worthy. So I wrote, in Punxsutawney, Phil sees his shadow. On Gobbler's Knob, surrounded only by his inner circle, and the cardboard cutouts fans could purchase in advance, have signed and mailed back as souvenirs of the time they were two places at once, maybe absent from their own inner circles and jealous of Phil's friends, chuckling nervously at the paper faces frozen in vicarious joy, until the groundhog announces there will be 6 more weeks of winter, and the annual wine festival has been postponed another 9, and the inner circle swears they saw a shadow cast over the crowd before heading for safer hills, soothsayer in tow. And just because I'm on an animal kick, I'll read you one more short one that was in New Verse News.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. So this one is called Major, named after President Biden's one of his dogs. And I have to say it was written, a couple lines cheated, but written in the Dio form. Dio, I can't remember what we said, but Jimmy invented that, and it's a very fun form that I quite enjoy, and it's fairly brief, so you'll have to ask him about that when he reads. Maybe he'll read you some Dios. Anyway, this is Major. The White House announces its first ever pound puppy, and I wonder if this proclamation is an indication of more major changes to come, that our president has himself declared, on America's behalf, we will shelter every kind refugee seeking a shepherd. Thank you.
Wonderful. Hello, everybody. The first poem is titled Do Not Read Poems, but before I proceed, I'd like to add a couple of footnotes. Białoszewski is the name of a poet and a dramaturg that the second half of the 20th century in Poland. He lived in Warsaw and had a small apartment, and some very humorous and critical of the government small plays were staged at his apartment. And you can imagine, a place of 50 square meters filled with people, and every night for many years. So this is one person mentioned in it. Bolesław Leśmian was a Polish poet of the first half of the 20th century, absolutely brilliant. He had a misfortune of falling in love with the same woman during the war that one of the SS officers did, and he got shot on the street for that. And Mr. Cogito comes from Cogito ergo sum, and that's the protagonist of the volume of poetry by Zbigniew Herbert, one that for many years was on the short list of Nobel's Prize. So forgive me for the few footnotes, but the book contains the footnotes, but if I read the poem, okay, let's go to it. Do not read poems. Poetry has not yet helped anyone, nor has it put in anyone's pockets a broken penny. You must be careful about poetry. You might trip over a poem and keep stumbling forever, and no one could help you. Neither Leśmian, nor Białoszewski, nor Mr. Cogito, the only one who knows what to read. You know, I'd like to go back to my Philadelphia days. I got some poems in the this funny-looking journal, okay, that we published together.
Called the Schuylkill.
Yeah.
I
That's
lived in Philadelphia, so.
well. There you go. So you know how to pronounce the rivers, the word. Yeah. The words we know, pulled by its Greek roots, the word dies like a flower, left to dry in a book. We stare at the word, touch the bold print, try to feel it. We put it in the mouth, but it has no taste. We try to say it, to bring it to life, but what we hear is the sound of petrified wood that was once a tree. We close the dictionary and put it back on shelf. We return to the words we know. And one more brief poem that I like to read is on page 34. Doesn't have a title, just 3 asterisks. There's something wrong with your head, Mr. Poet. Fish do not die in a psychiatric ward. Rivers of tears do not flow through secret prisons, and anemones don't grow on the street. Instead of writing nonsense about falling stars, the moon on the roof, or Johnny the musician, you should have your head examined or take to honest work. Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with a poem called My Adolescent. My adolescent lurks like some back alley bantamweight Holden Caulfield, slouching, smoking, smirking, ready with a cynicism or worse, an insult, released like a slowly inflating cartoon balloon. My adult cop watches with horror, even as I roll my eyes and shrug, what are you going to do? In spite of his louche behavior, the kid amuses me. I kind of like him. Well, I am him. That's my adolescent. Let's see. This is all new to me, this zooming. This is called the liminal. Ghosts rise for short visits at sleep's border and spend just enough time to stir emotion, the quality of which is wholly dependent on who appears. Stretched out to nap, I feel a nudge that is my foot pushing against a pillow, but raises the shade of my good dog, Sam, and for a moment, spectral love and comfort. Kuan Yin. I ask if there is a prayer, a formula to take me out of myself, across the 6 feet that separate us, that will join my need to your kind message. You tell me to write that all is well, all has been well, all is as it should be. The fawn looks over your shoulder. Our mother stands behind you. Both join your blessing that all is well, all has been well, all is as it should be. As life is holy, so we are holy. Presence is the prayer. This encounter is the prayer. And as I write, all is well, all has been well, all is as it should be. And finally, back to the dog theme, the comings and goings of all the gods' dogs. The heavenly throne is occupied by a well-fed, clean, and fluffed wolf and bitch coyote. Jackals and hyenas prance about on their hind legs to a frequency only they can hear, much to the tail-wagging amusement of the royals. While dogs, all manner and breeds of dogs, run around looking busier than they are, sniffing up each other's behinds, barking for no good reason, chowing down on the most awful scraps, fornicating to their heart's content, or sleeping. Now and then the population culls itself and drops out of heaven into the lives of some poor dumb human. You hear that?
Yeah, I definitely hear it. It's just kind of a feedback loop that's taking place.
That's fornication.
Fornication. Now and then the population culls itself and drops out of heaven into the lives of some poor dumb humans who think they have found a perfect and plaything pet, but who have adopted either a freeloader or a work for pay and praise obsessive. Some dogs, sad but true, drop miserable, sad and bad, and lead hard lives, passing through all this earth's hells until their blessed and unmourned end. Weep for them, love them all. When humans say all dogs go to heaven, they don't know what they're talking about, but they're right. See above. Thank you.
Okay, I have 2 poems. The first one I wrote today. I think it's finished. And last year, my mother passed away, and she wanted to be buried in New Jersey during COVID times. So this is what this is about. Etiquette for a FaceTime funeral. Don't wear white. White is the color of life. Go dark. Barefoot is fine. Remember the time change. Pray for a good connection. Put your cell phone on mute. When the rabbi texts you that he's inside the cemetery, put in your earbuds. Press record. Try not to stare into the hole, the only thing that is on the screen. Repeat each prayer the rabbi says with confidence that you remember 14 years of singing and dancing with Mrs. Sperber in the basement of Hebrew school, her hairy legs and rolls of skin shaking. Try not to look into the hole in the ground. Listen to the birds singing above the rabbi's tall hatted head. Even the rabbi with his stuffy nose and New Jersey accent says at least the cemetery doesn't charge a fee for the bird singing in the tree. And I just finished my book, and it was accepted in a press, and I'm going to read you one of the poems from it.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Swimming in the Rain. and it's by Kelsey Press. And you know, Leopoldo, you said something about diagnosis, so I'm going to read you something about diagnosis. This is Driftwood Press. I remember not sleeping. I remember lying on a squeaky cot in a room full of Czech women, listening to them breathe like lung machines. I remember steam hissing from radiators, heels clicking down halls. I remember on the psychiatric ward thinking that the patients were doctors who were there to save me because I was dying. A flashlight shone in my eyes every 2 hours during the night. A needle poked my arm. Someone always watched me in the shower with the flashlight. I remember waking up at night to use the bathroom and seeing Czech nurses watching porn on TV. I remember having sex with men, multiple men and women, but I don't remember feeling anything except sore. I was never tired and never hungry. I got a day pass from the hospital and snuck into a man's car. We smoked unfiltered Camels and listened to Metallica. I hated heavy metal, but it felt good to be held. I remember the doctor asking me if I had been breastfed and what it meant to throw stones in glass houses. I was afraid if I didn't get the answers right, something bad would happen to me. One doctor said sleep deprivation causes mania. My roommate swallowed a crushed light bulb. I remember the bitter taste of pills I hid under my tongue. I remember how good it was to come home, to stretch my legs across my bed, wrap myself in clean cotton sheets and listen to the rain. Snow fell my last night in Prague before I got on a plane to the States. I wasn't sure I would come back, but I wasn't thinking about that. I'd have to be up for 20 more hours to get home. Thank you.
This one's called Breathing. Watching, see, I'm down by that same river. I wrote this poem about, many poems about actually over the past many years when I was here before. Watching the river move east, then west, and all the in-betweens, the geese, the tide, the grass growing, flower blooming, clouds drifting, changing, disappearing, the color blue becoming gray after white mesh unveils to blue again. And all the while, the deer in green field grazing, and I in our good house gazing as the day, the tide, the clouds, breeze, sun, fishing boats come in and go out as I breathe. I'll do this one, quarantine. Time to sit, to listen, to feel, to see, to know, to dream, to think, to find our souls inside our hearts. The love, feeling it connecting us, our hearts, love, connecting us all in love. This is being one. Can we hold this for the whole world? I believe we can. Let's try it. Peace.
I have what I imagine is a scrapbook that I'm showing to somebody over Zoom and just showing little pictures while I'm talking. My pandemic scrapbook. We spent the pandemic in the Rockies, enjoying powdery days. We jumped the bumps and skied the steeps with grace. We paused for lattes at an outdoor stand. The pines, bedecked with snowy epaulets, saluted when we tried the northern face. Now, we spent the pandemic in Hawaii. We walked in lush rainforests on Sunday and visited seaweed gardens on Monday. We swam with fish of every hue and stripe and gawked at turtles drifting to and fro. In coral reefs, we spied hidden octopi. We spent the pandemic in Paris, in the Jardin de Luxembourg. Marie de Medici, once Queen of France, commanded creation of this lovely place. She thought it should be cherished and sublime. The rose garden passes the test of time. We spent the pandemic in Nepal, enjoying views of the world's highest peaks. We posed under poinsettias, tall as trees. We stopped at a kiosk named Nice View, overlooking miles of neatly terraced fields. Without much thought, we both remarked, nice view. We spent the pandemic on the moon. We searched for signs of life, but found only a trace of ice, inspiring plans to build a dome of glass for gardens sometime soon. Evenings, we read and write by Earthlight. I think we will stay up here on the moon. My note is long, but it was a long year. Hope you are well. Wish you were here.
There you go.
Is from Verse Daily. It's why we open our mouths. I never want to end up lying on my back with my mouth open, my sister told me. She was expected to die in 6 months, but lasted 3 years until the cancer in her intestines spread to her brain. An MRI spotted the reason she started losing her balance. A surgeon encouraged her to have the tumor in her head removed. She ended up half paralyzed and begging to die. The medical professionals, in all of their supreme goodness, told her no. They wanted yet another MRI despite her condition. She declined. They persisted. Finally, a pain professional arrived. He realized as soon as he looked at her that her only option was palliative care. She poked his chest, gave him a thumbs up, and cried, "Yes, yes." In a moment of clarity, she said, "I had a good year. I scored a 45 in golf. I lasted longer than anyone thought I could. I am ready to die." She took the open palm of her right hand and dragged it down her face. "Sleep, sleep." She signed sleep over 20 times. A few days later, she stopped breathing. Cheeks sunk in, mouth open.
So I'm going to read 2 poems. The first one, it pains me to say it. And so I have not yet thanked you for your generous offer to let me show for you on your statewide book tour. Big congrats, by the way, for winning that grand poetry prize and $3,000. To be crystal clear, I should say I would have considered it, but for finalizing my divorce and moving from my beloved house into the top floor apartment, well, converted attic if we're being realistic, of your arts and crafts style home. Actually, since I'm in a confessional mood and still mulling over the theft of my title for your book, I should tell you that I took to my bed that first week you were gone on tour, with packing tape stuck to my hair and chipped nails from flattening box after box. Without a word to my friends, I escaped from the world and hibernated completely. Well, truth be told, not completely. Your friend Stephen dropped by to see how I was doing and stayed for a week. Turns out he's straight after all and made a beeline for me the day you drove off in my car. So let me say, in all honesty, when I finally resurfaced and saw online all the rave reviews of your readings, I wished I had been there, though passion and Prosecco drove all thoughts of being supportive clean out of my mind. I could come in your car, but I'm nervous given the slightly bent axle and all that. And I must bake some shortbread to appease your neighbors. Stephen's quite the agile performer, you know. My dear, I hate to ask this. It pains me to say it. But could you find it in your heart to come and get me in my car? It was just a quick fling. I'm so over him now, but I can't shake him off, and I need to skip town post haste. And the second one, a bit more serious. 14 Ways of Looking by a Rhino, after Wallace Stevens' 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. 1. Do you know me? My skin cools down when I wallow in water-soaked mud. 2. I roam across wild plains, graze on grasses, pluck leaves and fruit from branches. 3. You have closed the corridors that connect wide spaces. While you farm, I search for a mate. 4. My horn, made from hair, grows throughout my life. If you saw it off with care, I will stay alive. 5. Yet here's how it works. If you spot me, I will soon die, pointless trying to escape your gun. 6. If I stand very still under the canopy of an acacia tree, I might become a shadow. 7. When I stand unmoving, you can kill me with ease. Am I the last of my kind? 8. Oxpecker, sit on my back, eat any insect crawling on my skin, call out when danger comes. 9. I snort with anger when harassed, run away when you come too close. I'm unsafe in open grassland. 10. I can't see too far. The plain is vast, dusty, but I hear the shot coming. 11. I drop down slowly, take my last breath on the parched earth. Clouds seep over the hill. 12. My heart is huge. When it stops beating, its weight rests against my ribs. 13. You walk away chuckling, my bloody horn leaking from your bag. How many do you carry? 14. Crush my horn to powder, sell for more than gold or cocaine. My death, a vulture's feast. Thank you.
I have one poem. It's called Wondrously Multitudinous. This pen is in your grasp. What a wonder. A special liquid contained within it leaks its contents onto this wonder, paper. The wonder of a nib controls the flow and allows you to spill your thoughts, so you may look upon them when you are older and take yourself back to this particular moment of wonder when your fingers wriggled the tool they held into these wonderful marks. This W with its topography of twin valleys and its own sound to process in silence inside your clever brain. Please think often of these wonders of ink, nib, and paper, of moments to recall, which means you, wondrously, possess a sense of time and a sense of presence, alphabets and handwriting. How wonderful that writing came to be. How wonderful that you may place your thinking in squiggles on a surface and your thinking may be understood within a separate being. You land inside the other's mind, the other carries you, and these are fraction of the wonders. Equally as often, please study a history, an origin, a reflex, each a multitude of wonders I ask you to take into your heart today. Study also love. Mine, for example, my love for you. Stow it deep and know I have stowed deep in me my love for you. You are loved by me. You are loved by multitudes. Study the love as it surrounds you, not only when you stand in the middle of the embrace, when you see it as letters on a Valentine, or when you sit ensconced at a holiday table, but as it surrounds you always ethereally. Always this love surrounds you. Study it, stow it, sense its presence within you. Please pause to watch the wonder of your pulse, the wonder that you recognize the name it has been given, the wonder that you can find those sites on your skin where the movement of your blood as it streams through your inner channels shows to the world, the wonder of your pulse announcing to the world your life, the wonder of your presence, the wonder of our presence together in the world at the same time, the wonder that the love between us might exist at all. Here it is. I am marking it on this page myself because there are so many pens and fingers, letters and thoughts, pulses and loves. They are multitudinous. They are wonders.
In here. It's
Yeah.
called Hungry Here. I'm new here and lonely, though I've no one my hugs know, and no one's favorite jeans join mine beneath the table. Still my armchair and book remember me and make room. So why am I sad? I uncover my own haunts, holding hands with a guidebook. I walk by people whose laughter stirs the coals of memory, and I go home where it's quiet. I bank the fire and stay warm. But my hands, with their own strong heartbeat, will not be satisfied. They are drawn to faces and fingers as a plant to the sun. They want to drink the touch till brown edges turn green and the dry memory of before is planted over.
Hmm. You're in the spotlight.
Well, I just want to read one. It's Valentine's Day coming up. I normally read different things with different levels of mystery and pain, but this is just a Valentine. If I were to write you a Valentine grand enough to truly express all my love for you, it might have to be electronic, made with electrons, as there is not enough paper within 100 miles to allow it to run as wild and free as the passions you unleash in me, to display all the colors you release in me, to hold the thoughts that carom around with the sunlight off your blonde curls, sizzling blonde light. Photons race not only towards my eyes, but out into the lucky universe. The Valentine would have to be electronic to carry all the music my heart sings, and even then, like notes on a sheet, would only tease and hint at the melody of all the music you coax from my heart. It would have to be electronic. There is not enough paper within 100 miles.